Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Obogo.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever in the world you are, and welcome to another episode of the Shine Out Loud Show with your host, me, Lillian Obogo. So today I have the Starseed Alkhemist. I'm talking about a woman who is a powerful psychic, an empath, a healer, an intuitive, a guide. Some of you know her as Yvonne Douglas. Some of you know her as a Starseed Alchemist. I know her as Diva and Goddess Supreme. She is just an all-round amazing woman who has taken her journey from pain to finding pleasure and her path and using it to actually help others heal and become whole. So join me and welcome my fabulous guest, Yvonne Douglas. Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, Lillian. Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction. Bless you.
You're so welcome. But it's true, you are a goddess and a half. And we have been social stalking each other for like years now. We're not going to say how long, because children have been born in that time.
Yes, indeed. It's been a long time, but it's so lovely to kind of really catch up with you.
Yes.
And reconnect. It's lovely.
It is. And so you have taken a journey that has been very interesting, because you've gone from the banking industry, which is very straight-laced and corporate, and to being the Starseed Alchemist. So what was that journey from banking to Starseed Alchemist? How did that start?
Gosh, okay, so for years and years, I worked as you say, in the banking and the corporate industries. My last sort of role was as an executive assistant for a well-known investment bank. And whilst I was there, I had a breakdown, and I was just struggling with life in my second marriage, and struggling with addiction problems, and my husband at the time was also struggling with addiction, and I had a breakdown. We broke up. There was problems in the marriage, and I ended up in rehab. And when I came out of rehab, that's when my life kind of really took on different meaning. In rehab, they took away my drug of choice, and my drug of choice. When I tell people this, they think food. It was food. My drug of choice was food. And so they took from me sugar products and white flour products. And that was it.
Okay, let's put this in context. You were in rehab for food addiction.
Yeah.
All right, you have to talk me through this. How does one go into rehab for food addiction?
Okay, do you know what? So initially, I was seeing a private doctor,
right? And
she referred me because I kept suffering from depression. And at that time, I had a breakdown and depression came up again. And she said, we need to get to the core as to why you always get depressed, because I've suffered with depression from a very young age. And that was the first time any doctor has ever said that to me. We want to get to the core reason. So she then sent me to see a psychiatrist,
right?
And he asked me loads of questions, and he said, I'm going to refer you to a therapist.
Right.
And the therapist that he referred me to was an addiction therapist.
Okay.
And then I saw him a couple of times, and then he said, I think you need to go to rehab. I said, what for? I said, I'm not a drug addict. He said, no, but for food addiction. And I was a little bit like, And then I thought, okay. I said, do you really think I need to go to rehab? He says, I wouldn't suggest it otherwise. So I trusted him, and I went, and I was in the treatment amongst other addicts of all sorts. And I was thinking, I'm not like them. I didn't take drugs. And I was even in denial about alcohol, actually. But it turned out that I was slowly becoming an alcoholic, because I used to binge drink terribly. And on that addiction program, I realized that, yes, I was an addict of sorts it just depends on your drug of choice, and mine happened to be food. And I do think that food was mine because it wasn't frowned upon so much. It wasn't, you know, and anyway, it was unconsciously, it unconsciously happened to me because of all the things that happened in my childhood. And so, yeah, I was in there, and after about 3 days of plated meals that they specifically made for me, I started to feel, my emotions started to rise. I started to have recovered memory. I went back into trauma, and I just couldn't stop crying, and so much stuff came out. But I was in a space where I was held safely, and they helped me get through a lot of my traumas. And it was a continuous journey after that. But the bulk of a lot of the work was done there. It just like it unlocked.
It unlocked that space. And like you said, you were in the right space for that to be unlocked, and you were with people that could hold you. Yeah. And I think that's very important, that, especially for Black women, who we are most of the time, we are the ones doing the holding.
Yeah.
So for you to be held and be in a space where you could be held, I think that is crucial. Definitely.
And that really did turn my life around, because before that I did have counselling. I had 7 years of psychodynamic counselling, and that helped a great deal with having looking back at my past and looking back at relationships and things. But because I was still relying on food, I didn't get to the core of of a lot of the issues. So going to rehab definitely just turned things around for me. And after that, I left my job. I left my job, and then I started this journey.
Okay, so I like the fact that you call it a journey, because, you know, one day you have a day job, you work in banking, and we've done our day job stints, and where you have to be a certain way. When did you realize that you had psychic abilities?
Well, when did I realize? That happened in around late 2011, I think, and 2012. I had met a couple of people in around 2011, I think it was 2012, and I had readings done, and I had some healings done, and people were telling me that I have the gift, but I ignore it. And one of them actually said to me, and you block it with food. And that was like very interesting.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. So, and I just kind of ignored that as well, and just carried on. And then late 2012, I was in a relationship that wasn't working, and I decided to, well, with some help of a psychic who said to me, you know, you are very intuitive, but you ignore it. Because I was having dreams and visions that my partner was cheating on me. And I just kind of, I questioned him, and he was just saying, oh, you're just feeling insecure because blah, 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 that's not happening and whatnot. And I just kind of carried on. But it got to a point where I started to really sense things. And I just thought, this doesn't feel right. This, no. And when I heard this psychic tell me that, I just thought, you know what? Right, I'm going to start believing in my intuition now. And I got rid of the partner. And then all of a sudden, I just had this insatiable appetite for all things spiritual. I was reading books. I was doing courses. I was practicing, and I got angel cards, oracle cards, and it all just started to come through, and I started astral traveling and having all these spiritual phenomena, and it just floodgates opened. Yeah.
You know, they say once you go angel cards, it's the gateway. It opens the doors to all different manners of things.
Yes, and it did. It really did. And so I've just continued on this journey, and it's just expansion beyond expansion and ascension. And you know, the journey has been so phenomenal that I've actually written about that so I've written a few books, as you know, but this next book, which I'm launching next month, is my journey from Christianity to spirituality. And and in it I just talk about all of this spiritual stuff, and
we're going to talk about that journey of Christianity to spirituality.
Okay.
We're gonna jump.
I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
No. It's absolutely fine, because before we get down that road, because there's a lot of things here that we can touch on. Because first of all, I can imagine 2012, you're going to some of these workshops, because I've been to some of these workshops. I've done certain classes. I go to certain places, and then you feel like the only Black girl in the village, and you're like.
Yeah. that has been the case in some of my situations. I mean, when I did my shamanic training, I was the only Black girl there. But it was actually a nice experience, because the women there, because I think they're so heart-centered and heart-led, I didn't have a sense of feeling less than or anything like that. But apart from that, I mean, I have done a lot of ancestral healing anyway, so I don't feel less than. I mean, I noticed the difference. I noticed the shift when I did have some ancestral healing in how I viewed myself around white people, etc. But, you know, there are lots of other spaces where there are a lot of Black women now.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's not so much about how we are received in those spaces by others, but sometimes there's something about going, I'm in this space and I'm the only one. And then you start to question, am I acting outside of the norm of what it means to be a Black woman? Am I acting outside the norm of what I know to be spirituality and religion? And we are going to touch on that, because there's so much. So let's start with this. Let's start with the ABCs here. You know, you talk about being a shamanic healer.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, and we are many, what is shamanic healing?
Shamanic healing. So shamanism is the oldest spiritual teachings known to man. And we work with the elements. We work with the all the spiritual elements. So above, the Mother Earth, animal guides, the elements, the elementals, and we're calling our guides to draw on the energies that heal. And we use ceremony and ritual, and we work with our ancestors as well. And it's, you know, when you look around the planet, you have them in Africa. African spirituality originates with shamanism. You have the native Indians, and how. Do you remember when we used to watch cowboy and Indian films?
Yeah, you see, I was just waiting for my opportunity to jump in, because when you started talking, I'm like, yeah, the only shaman I know is the Navajo shaman who's going, beating the drums, and that is all the idea you have when you think about the word shamanic healing. Is the shaman is the old wise Indian woman, as a native Indian woman or a native Indian man, as doing the healing and casting to the wind and calling on the coyote spirit. And you're like,
that's it.
So when you said shaman, and then it's a whole different identity that we then are looking at, like, so your brain is trying to go, but the image we have is, it's really confined to one area.
In what way? Sorry, when you say
so the image we have is still pretty much like you said. It's, we go back to the cowboys and Indians idea of that's a shaman. So when you say you're a shamanic healer, people are like, how? And isn't that cultural appropriation? But also, how? How can you be a shamanic healer? And that's the questions.
Yeah, it's not cultural appropriation, because shamanism is worldwide. You have Celtic shamans, you have Native American shamans, you have African shamans, you have Australian shamans. It's worldwide. It's the oldest spiritual teachings known to man, and it was worldwide. It was global, and it still is global. And there's different branches, and you learn different ceremonies and stuff, but ultimately we have something in common, where we use the elements, we use the animals, we use our guides to we all, you know, use different guides to do the work. And it's very powerful work. And I don't say so in order to be a shaman, you have to really grow up as one, so that you have the title of shaman. I'm a shamanic healer or shamanic practitioner, because I haven't grown up as a shaman.
Right.
So we're very mindful of how we use the term shamanic healer or shamanic practitioner, because we use the shamanic tools to do our work. as opposed to me being a fully fledged shaman, even though in a past life I probably was one.
We don't know.
Exactly.
Might be so.
Yeah.
And so, and to me, it fascinates me because they say as it's above, so it's below. There's nothing new under the sun. And it's just the cycle that we are in terms of how people view what it is that people do. And then, so there's this whole disparity about psychic abilities and, being an empath and everything. I think there's still a lot of fear around what it is and isn't. So let's start with, what is an empath?
An empath is a highly sensitive soul. So there are highly sensitive people, and then you've also got empaths who are on another scale of sensitivity. Empaths have the ability to feel other people's feelings before that person may feel it themselves. They have the ability to sense when something's going to happen in the environment. They can tune into the plant life, the animal life. There's different categories of empaths as well. So you might have a stronger pulling towards the animal and plant life, or you may have a stronger pulling towards humans and feeling their emotions more. And it's so you really have spiritual skills, spiritual abilities that the average person won't have in abundance as an empath. So being an empath is not an easy existence, actually, because empaths do struggle with working out what's theirs and what's not theirs. And you have to learn that our journey is about really learning to know thyself. One of the greatest philosophies is know thyself.
Yes.
When you know who you are, then you can act accordingly. You can look after yourself accordingly. And a lot of empaths are so warm. They are so giving. And to the point where they give to others before they give to themselves. And that's part of the journey of learning and growing for empaths. And many empaths attract narcissists. Many empaths attract narcissists.
They want to heal. They want to heal them.
They want to heal. That's just their kind of role, is to heal. But before they can do that, we have to learn to heal ourselves and create the boundaries, have the self-love, and then you're in a better position to give from a place of being overfilled. Yes. And to heal. Yeah.
I think that final message I don't think is just for empath. I think it's for everybody I know, especially women. And this is not just for women of color, women generally. We need to learn to fill our cups before we can pour into somebody else. I think
absolutely. Yeah. There's a new phrase that I have is that your cup has to be overfilling before you can give to others. And when your cup is overfilled, it goes into the saucer, and then you become a sorceress, because from that saucer you're giving.
Oh, Mama likes. I like.
Yes, man.
I like that. You have to become a sorceress. I'm gonna have to borrow that one.
Yeah.
I'll give you props online. Don't worry.
That's fine. I got that from Teresa Fowler, actually.
Speaking of which, I saw your Goddess Roundtable. You keep jumping ahead, woman.
Sorry.
This is so cool because there's so much. I will have to honestly say, and I'll jump back. Is I was watching it yesterday, and my heart was full for multiple reasons. It was a very valid discussion that you all were having, but the Goddess Roundtable was filled with women of color sharing their story and sharing their spiritual journey and sharing from this place of honesty. And it's like, to see it, as the youths will say, I love to see it. I love to see it. Good. So we're talking about you being an empath, you being a psychic. And we know that we have been raised to be religious. And now I'm being very specific. Us as Black individuals, we were sold religion. Part and parcel. It came sold. And we are it's church or it's the mosque, or it's very specific lines are drawn. Do you still find that a majority of the Black community are still afraid of alternative healing practices?
Yes, they are. There's a lot that are open to it, but there's still, because I'm surrounded by people that are of like-minded, but when I step out of that circle, I can see that there are so many other people that are still very dubious about this alternative way. They will look at this as juju or obia, and it's got a bad name.
You're being very polite. Devil worship.
Devil what? Listen, Lillian, my mum, God may she rest in eternal peace. I love my mum. She passed last year, but she stopped talking to me because she said I was a devil worshipper. Yeah. So it's very sad that people cannot open their minds, because they need to think about the fact there's so many things that they need to think about. What were we doing before we became Christians? How was Christianity put upon us? How did we become Christians? And think about all the little things that kind of goes back to our original roots. Things like, oh, my spirit didn't take to she, We say it all the time. And we have little rituals where we have a washout, and there's just so many little things that we do as in our culture that actually stems from our spirituality.
And I've grown up around religion. And I tell people I'm a Roman Catholic, very bad Roman Catholic, but I'm a Roman Catholic nonetheless, in terms of I was born and raised in a Roman Catholic household. I had questions, and I still have questions about, religion. We won't do it now. And so for me, my own journey to spirituality wasn't a rejection of religion. It was a rejection of how it was utilized and the justification. And so when people start asking, you have to ask questions. And I remember asking questions in Sunday school when I was, when my parents moved us to Nigeria, and I'm literally told to sit down and be quiet. And I'm like, but why though? Why am I told to sit down? And so when my parents would say go to Sunday school, I used to go and hang outside of the Sunday school class, because I'm like, I'm not going to bother if I'm not going to be allowed to ask questions. But the thing for me was, when we don't question, when we don't ask, we forget that I still have conversations with individuals who are very much born again Christians who don't realize that Jesus lived and died as a Jew. I'm like, the man wasn't a Christian. He was Jewish. And you have these people wanting to take you on. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not dealing with your stupidity. Not today. And so when we start looking at how religion goes and how can you help people bridge the gap between, is this devil worship, or is it okay to look at alternatives?
It's really hard to bridge the gap, and that's why I hope my book will help. But I think it really boils down to having an open mind, to stop being so closed-minded, and to open your hearts as well, actually, I think, because I do find that there's a lot of judgment, and there's a lot of fear. There is a lot of fear, and that's why it's good to have an open mind and ask intelligent questions, and don't be so dogmatic, because it's the dogma that gives religion a bad name. There are elements in religion that are really good, really helpful, really beneficial. If you take out the dogma out of Christianity and religion,
yes,
you're left with a lot of spiritual teachings,
of course,
which is fine, absolutely fine. But the open mind thing is what's vital for people to kind of learn a different way, and also question their belief. Because for me, I say that with religion, it's a belief. With spirituality, it's knowing.
That's a different thing.
It's very different.
Because it's
knowing.
It's a relationship, a deeper relationship.
And you look at the especially in the Catholic religion. I mean, I went on a oh God, that's another story. I went on a pilgrimage last year. I don't know why, but don't ask. But anyway, and it was awful.
Oh wow!
And it was. But if you watch the priests, they do ritual.
We don't even have time on the show today to go into the level of appropriation, as I'll use the word, from old religion into what we know as the religion for today. The fact is, if you ask why do priests wear robes, they're wearing the robes that the priestesses used to wear. But we won't go into it now.
Yeah.
So we've talked about you have the book coming out. So when is it coming out next month? Let's just jump into the book. We might as well start here.
It's due to come out, I'm hoping, on the 15th of July.
Okay.
As long as things work out. Okay. Yeah. That is the date that I'm planning.
Okay. So the book is coming out, and it's your journey from Christianity to spirituality. And then in that you go into your journey and how it takes place. I think one should, first of all, before we start jumping and delving a bit more into the book, is when we start talking about your psychic abilities and how it presents itself, how do people respond? And here's the end. And is psychic abilities available to everybody?
Okay, we all have a sixth sense. So yes, it's available to everyone, but we all have different levels of it. We can all tune into our sixth sense, our intuition, our gut instinct. We've all got that. So as an empath, though, my psychic abilities, it's kind of up there.
Right.
I have a direct connection to source. And there's different levels, different types of psychic abilities. You've got clairaudient, where you can hear spirit. You've got clairvoyance, where you actually see through your third eye. You have clairsentient, when you can feel spirit. Claircognizant is when you just have a knowing. And there's you can also smell spirit sometimes as well. So there's different types. And people, some people love it. Some people like to be around psychics because they're like, oh, tell me what you see, what can you tell, and things like that. But then there's some people that don't. They don't want you to sort of see what's going on for them. They want to be hidden. They want to hide away. And it can be, because I also do counselling, you see, and so I've got the double whammy. So on a psychological level, I can suss you out, and on a psychic level, I can see you.
So they have no place to hide.
They can't hide from you. So it's and it can be quite. I mean, being the person I am can be quite. It's a challenge because it's quite draining. Because I see a lot. But obviously, I am this person, and I am here for a reason, and I have to use those gifts for the greater good of humanity, and that's what it's all about, really.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question because when you think about when you see psychics shown on TV or things like that, or in movies, and the one that comes to mind is Constantine. And I don't know why this movie frightened me on so many levels, because the idea that if you see evil sees you, your life is effed, is all over, they're coming for you. Or the next part is, you're in one place and something simple can transport you into the middle of hell. Is it like that for you? What Hollywood projects as being a psychic, do you just walk into place, like we are right now together, even though virtually, you can see all the stuff going on for me? Or are there rules to the engagement?
There are rules to the engagement. I don't always tune in because it's just too much. And I don't necessarily, it's when I tune in, that's when I can see and feel what may be going on for you. But I don't always tune in because it's not my place to do that. If somebody calls me and wants to have a conversation about working with me and how I can help them, then I'm tuning in. Then right. I will tune in. But on the whole, I don't, I won't be. It's about having manners, really, and courtesy, isn't it? You don't just kind of go in and tell people what you see, unless you get nudged by spirit, because sometimes spirit will nudge me to say certain things. And also as an empath, I'm a lie detector.
Ooh, that's pretty handy.
It is very handy, and it's. But what I find really interesting is that certain people tend to still not believe you when you say you're a lie detector. They think that they can still lie to you, and they still do. And they say, "Oh, you have to prove it. You have to." No, we don't have to prove nothing. My higher self has proven that you're lying, and you will face the consequences. And I may not call you out now, but I will eventually.
Right.
And it will be, relationship done. And I think that's been one of the biggest lessons that I've also had to learn for myself, in trusting that what I'm picking up is correct. Don't doubt it. Don't let them pull the wool over your eyes. And I'm talking specifically around relationships, actually, like romantic relationships. That's where it's been really tried and tested. So, and it's taught me now that I will never, ever doubt that those things again. Never.
That's very powerful. That's very useful tool to know when you're being.
It's very useful. And even when I work with, because sometimes some people may not even can access certain things for themselves, and I can kind of help them, and also another thing about who I am is that my energy just allows for people to really open up. Sometimes people come to me and they said, "I've never told anybody this before," and it just comes out of their mouth when they're in front of me. So it is. I'm a healer, and that's just it. My energy, everything is just about really helping people to heal.
And we need the healing right now more than ever.
More than ever.
More than ever. So you're known as the Starseed Alchemist. And for anybody that understands alchemy, it's the art of transmuting lead to gold, or creating out of nothing. Literally, you create out of. So how do you alchemize your clients?
So in a spiritual world, it's about using energy to transform their life. So we are energy. Everything is energy. As a human, we're quite dense. Energy forms or particles. But when we connecting with spirit, I call in the energetic powers of my spiritual team, and I have many in my team, and they work through me for the client's highest good, and we can clear out energy out of a person and bring in certain energies that they need. And it could be love energy, it could be an energy for them to trust, it could be an energy to power up their sacral chakra or their solar plexus, or it could be energy that they've lost themselves that belongs to them. So parts of their soul's been fragmented due to trauma, bringing those energy parts back. And it's just, I'm amazed at how powerful this work is and what it can do for people. And I worked on a lady back in February, and she actually says that I saved her life. And when she was presented to me, if either she would have walked out in the road and got knocked over and killed, or she would have been sectioned. when I saw her. She just was. When I saw her, I was like, oh my God. I brought her to my house and did some work with her for like 3 hours straight. And I pulled out some things out of her that,
Oh, wow.
yeah, did not belong in there. And they had been in there for a long, long time. And now she's flying. I've just put out a video actually of a heart-to-heart discussion that I had with her after her session, but a couple of months after her session or so, to show where she's at right now and stuff. And it talks about psychosis and mental health and the medical model and the holistic model and all that kind of stuff in that interview. It's very good. But yeah, so it's about alchemizing the person's life, changing their energy structure so that they can start to feel lighter and live their life on purpose and get rid of what doesn't belong to them.
There's a question around, is the traditional medical practice, as what we know as medical healing, missing a trick with not involving a lot of alternative healing options, especially around even things like mental health? Is there something that the traditional medicine, who will go down the road of let's medicate first, are missing by not talking to women and men who are doing the work that you do?
There's a lot missing. The medical model doesn't really work, in my opinion. It's, in my humble opinion, it doesn't cure. It doesn't look for the real answers. It just tries to manage a situation with pills. And we know that the pharmaceutical industry just...
No, they're not our friends.
No, they're not. They're making money. They're making money. And whereas with this model, we're looking to cure people. We're looking to get to the core of what's causing them this dis-ease, this imbalance. You can have spiritual tears in your psyche, which can be healed energetically.
Okay.
And it's they know the thing is that they know that they want to keep their status quo, that they want to keep their money in flowing in the pharmaceutical industry, etc. So yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll just get you back on the show at another point, and then we will have a deeper, more in-depth conversation. Because we have a lot to talk about.
There's so much.
What is the Goddess Roundtable? Because we've kind of touched on it earlier on, but I want us to come back to it. And what is the Goddess Roundtable?
Okay, so you know what, Lillian, this is so deep because for a long time I've wanted to create a tribe, a women's sisterhood, because I really believe in the sisterhood. I don't believe that we are our sister's keeper. I believe that we are our sisters. We are all connected, unity consciousness. And I just wanted to build a sisterhood and build up my sisters. And during the pandemic, it just came to me as like a download. Just call on 6 women. I didn't even say 6. I just called on these women. It happened to be that we made up 7. And it's only afterwards we realized, 7. 7's a number of completion and this and that. And, bring together these women, create a round table, have discussions, live discussions that is going to help women of African heritage. Because there's loads out there where there's lots of white women doing that, and I just thought, let me bring in Black women together. And so we just came together, and within a week and a half of the initial sort of like download, we were recording our first live.
And the live I caught yesterday, that was a big one.
Yeah, the mother wound, we went straight in. I mean, the first one we talked about the importance of sisterhood, and the second one, so we do it every fortnight, we thought let's talk about the mother wound because it's very common. and it's a very deep wound. We're actually going to do a part 2 mother wound for the next one, because we didn't cover enough in terms of the tips and the solutions of healing the mother wound.
So that is my next question, is what is the mother wound?
The mother wound is, it's a deep wound. It's a very deep wound that men and women can suffer from, whereby if you were raised by a mother who wasn't emotionally available to you, who didn't protect you, who didn't nurture you, who may have been narcissistic, who may have suffered with mental health problems, who may have had addiction problems, who may have given you up for adoption. All these scenarios cause the mother wound, where you had so many of your emotional, psychological needs not being met, which then would make you grow up in a maladaptive way and not have healthy relationship with yourself and others.
So how do we start healing from that wound without feeling like we're betraying our mothers? How do we start healing from that wound without feeling like we're betraying our families?
Yeah, and that's a big question, you know, because somebody actually said in the live on Sunday that, you know, she's scared that she may end up hating her mother. And some people, you know, when I have a lot of clients here, they don't want to talk about the neglect that they experience from their mothers, because they feel that they're doing their mother, they're being dishonorable, you know, because you only have one mother, all of that kind of stuff. However, we're not about blaming our mothers, but we have to acknowledge that our mothers did fail us in some way, shape or form. If we can't acknowledge that, we will never heal that wound. We always say that our mothers did the best they could with the tools that they had, but their tools were probably very rusty. And then we go on this journey of reparenting ourselves.
Yes. Okay.
So that those wounds can be healed. And, you know, so if anybody wants to know more about the mother wound stuff, because we really don't have time to go into it here, but to just check out the Goddesses of the Roundtable and sign up and listen to our recordings. It's, you know, we're going to take the Goddess Roundtable much further than what we're doing now. At the moment, it's just discussions, but we're going to be providing a lot more in the future. So it's,
Okay. So energetically, how can we protect our boundaries as women, as empaths, as women living in this time? How can we protect our boundaries?
So the first, I would say for women generally, protect your boundaries by loving yourself. And when I say loving yourself, you know, there's this self-love phenomena at the moment, it's quite trendy, but I don't want people to dilute it. I don't want people to trivialize it and think it's self-love. So it's vital. Self-love is deep. It really is. And if we really truly learn to love ourselves unconditionally, you then have empowered yourself to have healthier boundaries, whereby you will protect yourself. You will not attract the narcissists and the abusers and the people that will take the piss. That's one way of protecting yourself, is self-love. And energetically, in terms of being an empath and with the energies out there, I protect myself with loads of crystals. I'm always wearing crystals. I make crystals as well. And I also use lots of frankincense and sage and rosemary and heather and lavender and all that kind of stuff. Burn them a lot, Palo Santo. I burn those things, do ceremony, just to kind of protect my energy.
Okay. So I am just looking at the different things, and we so don't have time, because I wanted to spend some time talking about intergenerational trauma, but we won't have time to go into it. But just for clarity, what is intergenerational trauma?
So there's many terms for it, actually, you know, but yes, it's where the DNA picks up the trauma of your ancestral lineage. when you're born, you inherit 75% of your parents' stuff. That's 75%.
Of
You
your DNA.
automatically, you've got their stuff. And the rest, the 25% is yours. So it's not much. So throughout your life, you're learning how to deal with your stuff, but also deal with theirs and heal from theirs. You know, if you look at, for example, sexual abuse, you'll often find it runs in the family and it can go back generations. And even things, certain ailments, you know, they say it's hereditary, don't they? Like blood pressure and cancer and diabetes and things like that. They say it's hereditary. A lot of it is in the DNA, it's taught, but it can be healed. It can be healed and stopped, as long as if we make that decision to be the one to stop the patterns, stop the cycles, do the healing work, it can be done.
Okay.
It can be done. That's intergenerational trauma.
Listen, Yvonne, I'm just going to have to get you to come back because we have so much to talk about. And so we've just come to the point of the show where we talk about our So Loud moment of the week. In your case, it can be the week, the month, past lifetime. I don't care. What are you celebrating that is your So Loud moment for the show?
What am I celebrating? Oh my gosh. Do you know what? I think for the first time for me, I really do feel like a goddess. Like, I feel like I'm in my power. I'm celebrating financial abundance at the moment.
Nice.
I think the lockdown has really done a lot for me. I did some more of my own shadow work, actually. It just came knocking at my door. And I had to do some forgiveness work, letting go, opening my heart more. And it has just created so much within weeks. I'm like, wow, it just feels like my floodgates have opened up and I really truly feel like a powerful goddess. So that's what I'm celebrating, girl.
I am loving that because when you own your power, when you step into your power, it's a beautiful thing. So
Absolutely.
I'm owning that for you, and that's a beautiful thing. So,
Thank you.
You know, we've talked about self-care and self-love being vital. We've talked about energetically maintaining boundaries. So let me ask you, what are your self-care practices?
Oh, the park, hugging trees, having spiritual baths. So lots of Epsom salts, Himalayan salts, essential oils, especially rose oil. I love my rose oil. Soaking in those baths regularly. Getting myself a massage, going to bed early if I need to, you know, and listening to my body. For me, dancing, I love dance. Listen, before this interview, I had to cool myself down because I was dancing. I just came across a Tina Marie song on YouTube. Somebody had put up a post about certain singers, and the Tina Marie song was there on the YouTube link, and I just clicked on it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this tune!" And I was in there, dark girl.
What tune? Share the tune.
What's it called? The Groove. Getting the groove or something. Your groove.
It's a groove thing.
Can't sing very well, but yeah, it was just for me, dancing is very therapeutic. And I massage myself. I massage my breasts and my body, and you know, talk good to myself and look in the mirror at times and just say, "You're hot, Yvonne," and you know, really love myself, because if I can't do that for me, then you know,
how can you do it for your clients?
Yeah. Well, not hug them, not massage them and stuff, but yeah, if you know what I mean. But yes, it's sorry. And you know, for me, I do like to have a laugh, so I just sometimes I make myself laugh.
No, listen, nothing wrong with that. I basically started to believe that there's a secret army of mosquitoes in my house who are coming for me because they're part of the mafia of mosquitoes and somehow offended the mafia godfather of mosquitoes, and that's why they're biting me. That's my story right now, and it's kept me laughing.
Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? So we have to do what makes in a way that is so nurturing. We have to.
We keep losing you, Yvonne. So let's see if we get you back for the last couple of minutes. There you are. We lost you for a few minutes. All right, guys. I think we've lost Yvonne for.
Okay, right. Yeah, I can see myself frozen.
That's okay. As long as we can hear you. I wanted to say thank you so much for being with us. Before you go, how can people find you? Can you still hear me? Hello.
They can. Can you? You can't hear me.
I can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Oh, it's saying my internet is a bit unstable. So yeah. Right. So people can Google me, or just my email address is YvonneJDouglas.com.
Okay.
YvonneJDouglas.com. And from there you can find my social media handles: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc.
Awesome. So you can find her under YvonneJDouglas.com, which is her website. You can find her on Insta, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So guys, you know what to do. Reach out to Yvonne if you want to discover more. We're going to arrange to get her back on for a longer conversation, and we'll go into all of this a bit more. But for now, we're going to say a heartfelt thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Lillian. Thank you for having me on the show. It's been amazing. It's gone so quickly as well.
I know. Time runs when you're having fun. So guys, it's a wrap. You know what to do. Leave us a review. Tell us what you think. We want to hear from you. You know where to find us. So catch you soon. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Shine Out Loud Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter @Shine Out Show.